David, is it true that the experiment we are presenting in this video was a major turning point in your life?
Bjorn, this is true. The experiment scope looked so simple, yet the result was dramatically different than anyone expected. And that is what we report on in this video. You don't want to miss this one.
He was the wizard of 1,000 kings, and I chanced to meet him one night wandering. He told me tales, and he drank my wine. Me and my magic man kind of feeling fine. He had a cloak of gold and eyes of fire, and when he spoke I felt this deep desire to free the world from its fear and pain, and help the people to feel free again. Why don't we listen to the voices in our heart? 'Cause then I know we'll find we're not that far apart. Everybody's got to be happy, everyone should sing. 'Cause we know the joy of life, the peace that love can bring. Thus spoke the wizard in his mountain home. The vision of his wisdom means we'll never be alone. And I will dream on my magic night, and the million silver stars that guide me with their light.
David, you have told me that this experiment has always meant much more to you than any other experiment you have encountered. Why is that?
Bjorn, it is one thing to report on what others have done, but what we are presenting in this video is something I experienced firsthand. I was there, participated in the experiment, and saw up close and personal what happened and didn't happen.
Okay, on that note, David, please provide us with some background information for the research we are talking about today.
Certainly, Bjorn. In 1981, I worked for a research lab near Washington, D.C. that was characterizing extremely intense incandescent sources of heat and light. That data would be used by other U.S. government agencies. I want to point out right away that none of this research was classified. Note that the intensity of heat was so high that it could instantly ignite combustibles. As we have said in other videos, do not try this experiment at home. We cannot be responsible for the actions of other people.
Okay, David, those disclaimers are important, but let us have you describe some of the experiment components as well as the design of the experiment. What was done, what was measured, and so forth.
Certainly, Bjorn, graphite heated to an extremely high temperature by direct current flowing through it was chosen as the incandescent source. A piece of graphite looked much like this. This is cardboard painted black. And graphite, very common material that is in pencils.
Seen that before.
Seen that before. A high current was provided by four 12-volt truck batteries connected in series. The heat and light, mostly light, emitted from the incandescent graphite source was measured with a water-cooled calorimeter, which had a calibration traceable to NIST, formerly called the National Bureau of Standards. The graphite was in the shape of a rectangular rod, like I just showed you. To complete the data, the electric current going through the graphite and the voltage potential between the ends of the graphite rod were also measured. The product of the voltage and the current was the electric power in watts entering the graphite. This could be compared with the radiated power in watts measured by the calorimeter.
Very good. But David, this all so far sounds sort of orthodox. So was there anything else, perhaps even mysterious, that showed up in the preparation for this experiment?
Good point. Orthodox is not us. Very good. Indeed there was. This was 1981. On my own, I had been investigating, remember, no internet back then, learning what I could about free energy, which I later called infinite energy, and Overunity. I believed it could be real, but was not yet then 100% sure. So imagine my surprise, even shock, when others where I worked told me that they had done a preliminary version of the experiment I was planning, had found about 100% Overunity, but told me that meant nothing, because they just assumed that the excess heat was due to the combustion of graphite in air.
Very interesting. But so they assumed, but they had made no actual measurements to come to that conclusion?
That's correct. Absolutely not.
So did that change how you designed or how you planned for this experiment?
Indeed. I wanted to know for sure that if I really was to find Overunity, as they had done, was it really just from carbon combustion, or was it from an unknown source? So I decided to do what the others had not, and weigh the graphite rod before and after the experiment. The mass of carbon burned would produce a definite amount of combustion heat, in addition to the heat produced by electricity and any heat from an unknown source.
And the plot thickens. So was there anything else related to the experiment and the setup of it that we should know?
The experiment team was using a state-of-the-art computer to record the data. The graphite reached its very high equilibrium temperature in a few seconds, then held constant for 10 seconds before declining as the battery voltage from the 4 heavy-duty batteries rapidly declined. Experiment data were taken during those 10 seconds.
So you watched these 4 truck batteries deplete in only 10 seconds?
That is correct. Just a little over 10 seconds. Not totally depleted, but depleted where they couldn't be used anymore in that experiment. And remember, these batteries would each be able to crank a big truck engine for several minutes.
Wow. David, what were the experimental results from this then? I mean, we are making a video about it, so I assume you must have observed something interesting.
Indeed, the combustion correction was only about 2% of the total energy radiated from the graphite. After that correction, the Overunity ratio for 2 runs, where we had complete data, was 1.41, or 141%.
Wow, that is significant. Were you ever able to postulate where this extra energy came from?
Bjorn, that is so interesting. For 40 years, the memory of this experiment would return to me countless times, but I never came up with a plausible source of the extra energy until a few months ago.
Perfect timing. Are you going to share it with us?
No, I thought I would run the suspense out a bit. No, I'm just kidding. I was prompted to look up the molecular structure of graphite. Then it hit me as an intuitive flash.
Okay, let us look at such a picture, which we have right here.
So this is a picture representing graphite molecules.
To me, it just looks like a piece of chicken wire. There's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah, so that represents the way graphite is hooked up as a big molecule. And each of the blue dots represents a carbon atom. The picture shown represents a single atomic layer of connected carbon atoms. These layers stack upon each other to form a piece of graphite. Electric conduction between the layers is very poor. The pattern you see in this layer shows rings. Rings is the magic word. The two-dimensional sheet of graphite rings is an excellent electric conductor. However, note that there are no straight line conduction paths for electric current all the way from the top to the bottom of the picture. There's a path, but it's not straight. Any conduction path consists of alternating rotational segments. By reasons presently unknown, the rotation provides the Overunity energy. This is plausible with what we know to date, and occurs in many of the Overunity technologies we know about. As to why rotation is often present when Overunity is observed, well, I am trying to create a plausible theoretical reason. You will hear it on this channel if and when that occurs.
Okay, so David, what if another high temperature conductor had been chosen rather than the graphite? Are you saying that there would have been no extra radiated energy?
Yes, Bjorn, that is correct. I considered that. For example, the element tungsten was a metal of choice for incandescent filaments, classic light bulbs, for more than 100 years. The atomic arrangement in tungsten is known as body-centered cubic, or BCC. This describes 8 atoms located at the corners of a cube and another atom in the center of the cube. So I will illustrate that with a cube. This is a cube. Of course, it has 6 faces, but it has 8 vertices or points. 2, 2, 2, and 2. Now there would be another cube next to it going in this way and that way and that way and top and bottom. Unless the tungsten is fractured or something like that. But ideally that's the structure of it. So with the adjacent cubes, each corner of one cube has an eighth of an atom in it. So you have 8 times an eighth, that's 1. And then there's a whole atom in the center of the cube. And that's what they mean body-centered cube. So that's the structure of tungsten. So a piece of tungsten has, if we look at the geometry of it, atom to atom, going all the way through it, straight line pathways for the current.
All the way through.
All the way through.
As opposed to this.
Right. They're different. They're very different. Electric conduction is not forced into a rotational path. Therefore, extra radiated energy output would not be expected.
So, David, you're telling us that the data of these measurements show that the incandescent graphite emitted more power as heat and light than the electrical power consumed from those 4 truck batteries. How was this received by the higher-ups who oversaw the research conducted in the lab where you worked?
Bjorn, I think you already know that.
I think so.
The laboratory manager said, and this is a quote, "David, you have obviously made a mistake," end quote. However, he said this before he looked at any of the data. He did not want to look at the data, and he never did. I understand this. That was 40 years ago. The outcome showed me clearly what was going on. Many people with university degrees, often thought of as those who know, are programmed to hold a belief that energy out can never be larger than energy in. But sometimes energy out is larger than energy in. Life on Earth will be greatly improved when experimental truth can triumph over false beliefs.
So, David, this is the same thing over and over and over again. What can we do about this? I mean, this is now the 11th video we are doing in the new series that you and I are doing together, and each one of them has their own example of how Overunity has been discovered, measured, and rejected. So how about we go down the list of the videos we have made and briefly comment on how Overunity was shown and never has gotten widely accepted in any of these cases.
Dora, that's a great idea. And all these videos are right here on this channel for viewers who want to dig deeper.
That's right. So we started with videos 11, 12, and 13, where we go into a detailed examination of Dr. Peter Lindemann's ideas as to why we do not have infinite energy or free energy now.
Absolutely. I have a very high respect for Dr. Lindemann.
In video 14, we showed how the belief in manned heavier than air flight was only widely accepted when the Wright brothers' flights were finally viewed by many people at the same instant.
The belief paradigm changed dramatically in an instant.
Then in video 15, Gordon Jackie's Overunity discovery, and a local professor agreed that his results were real, but the professor refused to attempt to publish any of the results.
Yes, already Back in those days, many people in academia were fearful of losing their jobs if they went against the consensus reality.
Right. Video 16, Griggs and Schaefer's Overunity steam generators, where Griggs managed to sell his devices, whereas Schaefer never was able to bring his device to market.
But even for Griggs, so few people have even heard about what he did.
It took you to tell me, for me to know about it. And then in video 17, we looked at the two professors, Peter and Neil Greneau, who fired high voltage pulses into pure water and showed clear overunity. And they even got it peer reviewed and published. But then what?
Yes, more academic fear. They just said their experiment showed a mysterious bonding energy in water, rather than mentioning overunity.
Video 18, Bruce De Palma, who studied rotation for decades, clearly showed overunity but could not break through the academic inertia.
In spite of his credentials and experimental results, his work was never really accepted by the mainstream, and he moved to New Zealand and died alone.
Then in video 19, an extremely dramatic story where Wernher von Braun and the United States Army achieved overunity while launching the very first US satellite, but just considered it to be a huge problem.
Unbelievable, but true.
Then our previous video, video 20, compound rotation, Milkovic in Serbia, who invented a dual stage oscillator which actually multiplies energy, and also Eric Laithwaite in England, who demonstrated an interaction between compound rotation and gravity.
Both Milkovic and Laithwaite have found little acceptance by the mainstream.
And here we are with video 21.
Up close and personal. And I was an outcast when overunity was clearly shown, something that could clearly be of great benefit to we the people was thrown away again. What can be done? How can we change the paradigm? If any of you watching have any idea how we may better present the reality of free energy, please comment below.
Yes, please. That is a great idea, David, and thank you for having led us through all these videos and looking at all these exciting discoveries and looking at all the obstacles and problems and difficulties that these inventions have faced along the way.
You are welcome. You know, this is what my heart is beating for.
I know that. And that is what leads me to the next question, which is, where do you now see us going from here? What will be coming up in our next video?
I feel an attraction towards magnets.
Magnets.
So we say,
See you next video.